Welcome to this module of our course, where we dive into the core of daily operations, your day-to-day system, starting with subcontractor setups. At this point, hopefully your QuickBooks Online and BuilderTrend accounts are already set up and linked. Now, it's time to bring it all together. As you know, subcontractors are a critical part of your home building company. While they are not employees of yours, there's an important infrastructure you need to establish with them so work can be completed on time. On this slide, we have a listing of critical documents that we will touch on briefly here and then dive deeper on future slides. You'll want to start with a subcontractor agreement. Ensure all subs have a current signed agreement. This legal document should clearly outline the terms of their work, responsibilities, and expectations. You will likely want to update this agreement at least once a year, because situations will arise that will inspire you to add more content to your template. As silly as it may sound, you will also want to ensure there's a stopgap in place to identify new subcontractors and require them to sign the agreement before they start work on your project. What if a sub refuses to sign? Well, you might come across that, and you will have to evaluate how valuable that business relationship is to you. Along with signing the agreement, it's best practice to collect the W-9 right away. Technically, it's acceptable for a sub to start work on a job before you receive their W-9, but why not just include it all in one subcontractor onboarding package? You will definitely want their W-9 before they get paid. Even if you might not be required to issue a 1099 to a specific subcontractor at year end, it's still a good idea to get a copy of their W-9 because this is the sole evidence you have that you're not required to issue them a 1099 in case the IRS asks. Next, let's talk about their certificate of insurance, also known as the COI. Verify that each sub has valid insurance and maintain a copy of their COI. Now, we need ACH info for electronic payments. Yes, we know check payments are still common in the construction industry, and that's all right. You should be able to find a payment processing service that will not only print and mail checks on your behalf, but also enable ACH payments for those subs who want them. I'm sure this could change over time as many of these services are quickly evolving. Most importantly, you want to use an app that's secure, convenient, and robust. And to wrap everything we just discussed on this slide, you probably want to grant subcontractors access to BuilderTrend. This will allow for streamlined communication and project management. We know some subs are a bit old school and might not check it often, but they should be encouraged to do so. It will make everyone's life easier when you really need it. Now let's talk about some critical elements you should include in your subcontractor agreement. We will also include a template of the agreement in the links below, but we do have to mention a disclaimer that we are not attorneys. We strongly suggest you have a lawyer look over any subcontractor agreement before you implement it. For liability, you'll want to clearly state who bears what liability when on the job site, traveling to the job site, and more. It might seem obvious, but you'll want to discuss the scope of work and where the sub can find specifics about what work they're responsible for completing and to what standards. Moving on to change orders, this is a big one that is sure to come up. Hopefully, it's a change order at the request of the homeowner, but we also see change orders necessary in the event of a miscalculation from the architect or builder. In your sub-agreement, include a process for managing and approving change orders. There's nothing worse than a sub who's moved forward completing a change order only to find out it wasn't yet approved and then payment is in jeopardy. Outline exactly when a sub can move forward on a change order and what constitutes an approved change order. Now, we have warranty items. You'll want to outline who's responsible for the cost of warranty claims, either from you or the homeowner. This is also an item you'll have to account for in your margin because you want to make sure routine warranty claims can be processed without turning you totally upside down on your job. Another important aspect of the sub-agreement is job site rules. Set clear expectations for behavior, smoking, restroom use, and more. I find these are the sections that are most likely to get updated because you just never know who will do something stupid on your job site. Moving on to termination of the agreement. it's important to define conditions under which the contract can be terminated. Even if it seems unlikely, always map out the termination plan. You never know when ownership or relationships could change. You'll want to keep progress moving on your jobs with as little disruption as possible, so the ability to hire a replacement subcontractor is critical. Next, here's one that's commonly misunderstood by both parties, which is payment timing and method. I can't even count how many times I've intercepted communication between the builder and sub who were on totally separate pages on how payments work. The builder wants to take advantage of 30-day terms when the sub wants to get paid immediately, and even threatens to stop work on other jobs until they're paid. Specify when and how subs will be paid so you have an official document to refer to. Also, adhere to the payment plan outlined in the agreement. If the document says one thing but you practice something different and then you want to go back to what the document says, you're going to create a bad experience for your sub. You do need subcontractors, so it's important to nurture your relationship with them. You'll be surprised at what kind of discounts you might get from them if you are just pleasant to work with. Then we have adherence to schedule, where you just need to stress the importance of adhering to project schedules. One other thing that can help with communicating schedule changes is if the sub has a BT login so they can just get in there and view schedule changes on their own. Remember, they are trying to manage resources just like you. Nobody wants to get work done late, so it's easier to outline the fact they need to refer to BT for schedule change notifications. For disputes, include a process for resolving disputes, such as back charges. This is another spot that's important for an attorney to look over because you might have unique state and local laws that constitute what happens in a dispute. And finally, make sure you obtain a signature, preferably an electronic signature method because it's more convenient, easier to save, and legally binding. Let's rewind a bit to take a deeper look at W-9s. What's nice about W-9s is that there is no expiration date, so you only need to collect it once. We prefer storing these documents in both BT and QBO, but especially QBO because it allows you to type in their taxpayer ID number, which makes 1099s a breeze at year end. You can generate them all from QBO, which calculates how much should be reported on the 1099. Remember, 1099s need only be issued to subcontractors you pay for services, not goods, in the amount of $600 or more during the calendar year. You can also exclude payments made to subcontractors via credit card. Can you imagine how confusing it can get if you sometimes pay a sub with a credit card and sometimes with a check? Not to mention if they include different line items on their bills that separate labor and materials. Thankfully, as long as it's all entered in QBO properly, this can all be calculated automatically at year-end based on the payment method on the transaction and the cost codes. We also want to take an extra moment to review the COI. This document does expire every year, so you'll want to use the vendor profile features available in BT to store these documents, and even better, you can set up automatic email notifications that will go out directly to the sub so they can submit their new document right into BT. I know it sounds like a small task, but all of these minutes here and there add up to meaningful time savings over the course of your year. You will likely need to go through a workers' comp audit once per year, so keeping QBO up to date will greatly assist with that. If you keep good records, these audits can sometimes unlock sizable refunds that can make a difference in your business. All too often, I get requests to run the workers' comp reports for obscure dates, such as May 12 of one year to May 11 of the following year. This requires some detailed record keeping. Furthermore, the workers' comp auditor will probably ask for your check register and possibly even other reports. The best thing to do is use QBO to the best of its abilities. Otherwise, you risk wasting hours trying to gather this data manually when it should take just a few minutes from a well-maintained QBO file. I imagine more and more subcontractors will want to switch to ACH payments, which are faster, cheaper, and more secure. Please be careful if you are still printing and mailing checks on company check stock. It's so easy for fraudsters to steal checks out of the mail and use the routing and account numbers at the bottom of your check to withdraw massive sums of money from your checking account. If you are using this old-fashioned method, we recommend keeping check stock locked up and contacting your bank to implement positive pay. check and ACH fraud is not protected under the same measures that credit cards provide. Some banks might not reimburse you for funds stolen out of your bank account. At the time of this recording, Bill.com, which is now known simply as Bill, is our favorite payment processor. This is because they offer a documented approval process that can be set up based on the dollar amount of what's being paid. Next, we can accept working with Melio, which is similar, but just a little more limited on features. Finally, we know BT is rolling out its own payment processing service, but we're not thrilled with the fees or the current integration with QBO. I'm sure this could change over time as many of these services are quickly evolving. Most importantly, you want to use an app that's secure, convenient, and robust. These apps can print and mail checks for you with a spoof routing and account number at the bottom of each check, so they are at risk for the check fraud, not you. They also have a robust network of businesses who are already signed up on their platform, so it's easy for them to use their bill profile across a number of different general contractors. You can get these electronic payment methods set up once and then just use the same infrastructure over and over. You'll never have to worry about reissuing a check that was lost in the mail. However, it's worth noting that you must be extremely careful if you receive any request for a sub to change their payment details. It's a common fraud technique to send an email asking you to change someone's routing and account number. We have even seen this attempted with employee payroll. If you fall victim to one of these requests, you will likely be required to pay a second time. That's why we always recommend only changing payment details after verifying with a phone call. Finally, for tech-savvy subs, encourage them to use BT for efficiency. It might seem like a small issue right now, but as you grow, it will make your life so much easier if subs can access BT on their own. It's even better if you can have a few training videos for them to watch. Maybe you can even steal these from BuilderTrend themselves. You will have zero spare time to teach new subs about BT if you grow at a fast rate. You will also want to be prepared to address resistance from subcontractors who prefer traditional methods. This all ties into promoting the use of BT for accessing schedules and updating COIs. In this lesson, we spoke about the importance of a standardized subcontractor onboarding process. It might seem easy, but it's all too often overlooked. What's even better is if you can document these procedures in an operations manual so you can later delegate these setup tasks. You might discover training videos are also useful in teaching future team members how to do these subcontractor setups once you can delegate. You will do your future self a huge favor by getting this into a routine that can be replicated over and over. Thanks for watching, and let's head into the next lesson.